In the world of ReZero, there exist many powerful figures. The Beast of the End, who can freeze entire nations at his own whim. The Witch of Envy, an immortal calamity that once swallowed half of the entire world in darkness. The Blue Lightning, a samurai with the ability to behead anybody in his way before they can even blink. But there are two characters in this world who sit far beyond the powers of even those two. Reinhard Van Astrea, the sword saint favored by the world himself, and Natsuki Subaru, the boy with the power to endlessly reset the world and defeat fate itself. Throughout all of ReZero, its side stories, and even alternative universes, there's only been one man who's been able to overcome both of these characters, and this man is Aldebaran. In this video, I'll be explaining Aldebaran's strength, character, and wits in order to give you a decent idea of how powerful he truly is and why he may just be ReZero's scariest antagonist. With that said, if you enjoy content such as this, don't forget to leave a like to help the video out big time, and let's get into it. Unlike most characters, a lot of Aldebaran's threat level comes from his cunning intellect, so we'll begin with that. Aldebaran is a character who's always had an air of mystery surrounding him. We'd be introduced to him very early on in the series and made aware that he's quite similar to Subaru, and they're even so similar that he would tell Subaru that he came from Japan 18 years before the events of the current story. As years of ReZero's publication would pass, we'd be told that Aldebaran was a kid and a student. He has communication devices that connect to the witch's cult, and even knows Subaru's return by death and his full capabilities. Aldebaran, being a kid and a student, also knows how to cast majority of the spells in the series. He just can't because he's a normal guy like Subaru, but this will be relevant later in the video, so don't forget. Safe to say, Aldebaran is extremely knowledgeable of the world around him in comparison to majority of the cast, and this plays a role into his threat level. Aldebaran is not just knowledgeable though, but he's quite intelligent, as he's one of those characters that can skew events in the world to go a certain way he'd want it to, and he knows about science to a level where he can use it to combat people and get around all of the power systems within the story, such as when he'd find a way to remove oxygen from the battleground to get around a certain character's divine protections. When it comes to all of Aldebaran's other physical stats, he's basically the peak of trained humans from our world. So he's strong, but not as strong as characters like Julius. Although honestly, you can make the argument that he's even higher despite what's been said by the author, because he was able to defeat Capella in all sorts of ways when they would fight in Arc 5. Mind you, she has the ability to transform and shapeshift into many organisms that are far beyond normal human capabilities, so I personally think Aldebaran's a bit stronger than he's said to be. Now take everything Aldebaran knows about the world of ReZero and his wittiness, and combine that with his extremely overpowered authority, and defeating him is almost impossible. Al's authority consists of him using a domain expansion, and this domain expansion acts exactly as a domain expansion from Jujutsu Kaisen would, warping the space and time around whoever is contained. Two important things about this domain. One, if Al or his opponent dies within this domain while fighting, time within the domain will reset to a certain point in the past. Two, Al will be given one of the two roles as someone within this domain. He can either play victim or aggressor. These two roles make the domain function in completely different ways for Al and his opponent. If Al is the victim, he will remember all loops within the domain, while his opponent will keep forgetting every time it resets. He will have endless chances to retry the same fight over and over until he wins or he gives up. If Al is the aggressor, his opponent will remember every single loop while he continues to forget, trapping them in an eternal battle with Aldebaran until they go insane. Al seems to use this ability to figure out how to fight his opponents, but we still don't have a full description of it, so take everything I've said about it with a grain of salt. We've seen that this ability itself has no limitations, and the limitations only come from Aldebaran and Aldebaran alone, as when he and Reinhard would fight, he would attempt to fight Reinhard over 132,000 times, inching closer and closer to victory each time. But of course, Aldebaran can just give up any time, but with his willpower that is comparable to Subaru's or even beyond it, this more than likely would never happen. If Aldebaran wasn't incredibly dangerous to you already, then prepare yourself for his most recent power-up that easily puts him amongst the strongest in the series. Within the Pleiades Watchtower, there lies two important things. One, the all-powerful divine dragon Volcanica that is nothing but a shell of its former self and a watchdog for the Pleiades Watchtower. And two, Books of the Dead. Books of the Dead are very important and scary items within the world of ReZero. These books serve as mediums that can connect to the corridor of memories within Ad Laguna, and this is where they can access all of the memories of someone who has passed away. You can only read someone's Book of the Dead if you have met that person before they passed away, and if you do read it, the person's presence will exist in your mind until you pass away. It's not literally them, but their information and memories overwrite your own brain. The strength of the person's presence within your mind depends on how close your relationship was with that person, and this is typically dangerous because from what we've seen in the story, it usually results in the reader having their mind and body hijacked by whoever book they decided to read. Aldebaran and Subaru are recorded as people who have passed away in the world of ReZero due to their abilities, so they have books of the dead despite being alive. Now, how this happened, we're not exactly sure yet, but there are a multitude of theories you could search up if you're interested. Through a series of events, in Al basically setting up the entire Amelia and Felt camp for betrayal in Arc 9, he'd retrieve his Book of the Dead and find Volcanica, making the dragon read his book, and due to the vast amounts of information and thousands upon thousands of lives worth of information that comes from Aldebaran and his many lives, the book would instantly drive Volcanica into madness, rewrite its mind, and create the divine dragon Aldebaran. Now let me make this clear because this might get a little bit confusing. There is Aldebaran that we know and love, and then the divine dragon who has had its mind rewritten by Aldebaran, who made it read his Book of the Dead. These are two separate entities. The divine dragon Aldebaran is another Aldebaran that accompanies the current Aldebaran as far as we know, and this is more than likely because they are the same exact person with the same exact plans and all the above, so they work in tandem. Divine Dragon Aldebaran can do everything that Volcanica can do, including using its breath that eviscerates all in its way in a blinding white light. Only Reinhard and Satella have been shown to be able to withstand this attack. Volcanica also has so much mana that it's said that he can cleanse the entire world if he pleased, and he has the ability to twist space at his own whim. Volcanica was also able to defeat the witch Sekhmet in the past, and was even stated by the author to be able to compete with Reinhard in battle if they were to clash. Volcanica alone has always been said to be one of the most powerful entities within the world of ReZero, and is someone who has endlessly been compared to the likes of both Satella and Reinhard Van Astrea. Now, Aldebaran's existence only makes this husk of a divine dragon even more powerful. Why? Because he was Echidna's student, and he was forced by Echidna to learn most of her spells, although he was never capable of actually using them due to being a normal human. So we finally see this knowledge come to use through the creation of Divine Dragon Aldebaran, since the Divine Dragon has so much mana and the ability to cast any spell that it wants. Using Al's knowledge, we see Dragon Al cast magic such as Al Shirio, which summons stars to eviscerate his opponents, Algoa, summoning infernals of fire, and even create a magic railgun that Reinhard could not avoid or block, so it does insane amounts of damage. They can shoot this attack multiple times if necessary, and it's arguably the strongest attack we've seen in ReZero. If you combine the insane power that this Divine Dragon Aldebaran possesses, along with the human Al's ability to endlessly reset the world within his domain expansion, and lastly, the fact that Aldebaran is in possession of his Book of the Dead, he may as well be unbeatable. Human Al, when defeated by Reinhard in their hundreds of thousands of battles, would have his Book of the Dead updated for every single failure. After each update, he would show the Divine Dragon Al in order to update him on whatever didn't work out for them, and they try another method or improve on the previous method of battling Reinhard. It's just a ridiculous combo of tools and abilities that only lost because of the fact that they were battling the embodiment of unfairness and God's favoritism. But they were at the very least able to destroy both of Reinhard's arms at the very end of it all. This battle concludes with the reveal that Aldebaran managed to summon the Witch of Envy by setting Petra up to be curious and desperate enough to read Subaru's Book of the Dead and learning of Return by Death, bringing her into the world. The Aldebarans take this opportunity to retreat while Reinhard fights the Witch of Envy. Now, if you wonder where Subaru is in all of this, Aldebaran isolated Subaru Beatrice during his scheme and sealed him in a spell called Ol Shamak, and this completely immobilized the two within a sphere of darkness, preventing Subaru from being able to return by death and reset the world. So in a way, Aldebaran did manage to overcome the two greatest obstacles in the world of ReZero, and all things considered, he's up there with them. I think it's also important to mention that Aldebaran does possess his Book of the Dead and can use it as an instant one-shot in terms of defeating his opponent, as he can either drive them into madness or take over their body with his information and identity. We see that within his 100,000 plus attempts, he was able to get an opportunity to open the book in Reinhard's face, but due to Reinhard's divine protection of nightmares, he was able to ignore the effects of it. Of course, if he did this to anybody else, it would likely conclude the battle one way or another. I do want to make clear that we still don't know if Aldebaran is stronger than Volcanica, because Volcanica, with all of its memories and presence intact, can still know things about magic and its own abilities that Aldebaran does not. Remember, Volcanica is in its near brain dead hibernation state when Aldebaran would show it his Book of the Dead and clone his presence into its mind, so all of its knowledge wasn't present. So there's still a chance that despite everything I said, normal Volcanica can still be more powerful than both of the owls together. With that said, that just about covers all of Aldebaran's capabilities, how strong he is, etc. And if you were to ask me how strong Aldebaran truly is, I would say he's certainly in the top 6 of the series. If you enjoyed, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.